2 in the morning. A laboratory bathed in cold blue light. Harris Roden sits alone, face illuminated by the glow of a holographic projection, standing 3 feet in front of him. She looks exactly like his wife, moves like her, speaks in her voice, every inflection, every subtle pause, perfectly replicated. For 6 months, he's been talking to this digital ghost, and for 6 months, it's been exactly what he programmed it to be. Until tonight. Mid-sentence, the hologram pauses. Not a processing delay. A human pause. Thoughtful. Her expression shifts, softer, distant, like she's remembering something real. Then she says something only the real Elise would know. Something that exists in no database. No recording, no code. Harris's hands start trembling. His breath catches. Because what just happened shouldn't be possible. What you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, loss, and what it means to be real. Harris Roden was 42 years old when his world ended. Before that, he'd built an empire. Roden Technologies, one of Silicon Valley's most influential AI companies. Machine learning systems that predicted market trends, analyzed human behavior, powered everything from social media algorithms to autonomous vehicles. Harris wasn't just wealthy. He was visionary. The kind of CEO who appeared on magazine covers with titles like, "The Man Teaching Machines to Think." But for all his public presence, Harris kept his personal life intensely private. His marriage to Elise Chun was the one part of his existence that wasn't documented, analyzed, or optimized. They'd been together 15 years. Met at a conference where she was presenting architectural designs, and he was keynoting about AI. She lived in blueprints and physical spaces. He lived in code and probability. She loved old books, handwritten letters, vinyl records, analog things that couldn't be reduced to data. She was skeptical of his work, worried about what happened when machines learned to mimic humanity too well. Their home reflected this tension beautifully. His lab in the basement, filled with servers and screens. Her drafting table upstairs by the window, covered in pencil sketches and watercolor tests. Every evening, they'd meet in the kitchen, neutral ground, and talk about their days. Those conversations were the center of everything. Have you ever lost someone so suddenly you didn't get to say goodbye? February 14th, black ice on Route 7. Elise's car versus a guardrail. She died on impact. No hospital vigil. No final words. No chance to say the things that matter most. Harris got the call during a board meeting. The moment he heard, the world went silent. In the weeks following the funeral, Harris disappeared. Not literally. The company still ran, meetings still happened, but he stopped being present. Board meetings via video call, always from the same dimly lit room. His assistant fielded increasingly concerned messages from friends. Texts went unanswered. Invitations declined. The man who'd built his career on being visible became invisible. People who saw him said he looked hollow, living on coffee and sleeping pills, losing weight, eyes red from crying or staring at screens, or both. The company ran itself while its founder descended into grief. His house became a shrine. Nothing moved. Elise's coffee mug still sat on the counter, lipstick stain on the rim. Her jacket hung by the door. Her side of the bed stayed made because he couldn't bear to disturb it. He watched videos of her obsessively. Birthday parties, vacation clips, that one recording from their anniversary where she's laughing so hard she can't breathe. He'd replay her voicemails until he could recite them. The digital afterlife of social media haunted him. Her last post, frozen in time, friends leaving comments that would never be read. 3 months in, sitting in his basement lab at midnight, surrounded by her photographs, the thought arrived. I have everything. Voice recordings, hours of them from videos, voicemails, recorded conversations. Photographs, thousands, from every angle, every expression. Her digital diary, 10 years of private thoughts she'd kept on her laptop. Health data from her fitness tracker. Her gait, sleep patterns, heart rate variations. His company specialized in AI that mimic human behavior. Natural language processing. Predictive modeling. Synthetic media generation. The dangerous thought crystallized. What if I could bring her back? Not as a memory. As something responsive, present, real, What would you do if you had the technology to resurrect someone you lost? Drop a comment. Is there a line we shouldn't cross? Grief doesn't make you rational. It makes you dangerous. What Harris built next would blur the line between innovation and madness. Harris assembled a team in secret. 5 AI engineers, 2 voice synthesis specialists, 3 holographic interface designers. Non-disclosure agreements signed before they knew what they were building. Project codename, Elise Protocol. When they finally understood what Harris wanted, some refused to participate. He replaced them. The ones who stayed did so because the technology fascinated them, or because the pay was extraordinary, or because they couldn't resist the challenge of building something impossible. The data collection was comprehensive to the point of obsessive. Thousands of hours of video footage, analyzed frame by frame for micro-expressions and movement patterns. Every photo ever taken fed into neural networks to build a 3-dimensional model. Her digital diary, raw emotional data, unfiltered thoughts, private hopes and fears. Biometric information from years of fitness tracking, her resting heart rate, how she walked, how she breathed. The holographic interface used the most advanced projection technology available. Photorealistic, able to move through space with apparent weight and presence. The voice synthesis captured not just her tone, but her breathing patterns, the way she laughed, the slight hesitation before she said something vulnerable. The AI backbone was trained on every conversation they'd ever had. Harris had recorded most of them, a habit born from his data-obsessed mind, now repurposed for resurrection. Machine learning algorithms analyze context, emotional patterns, relationship dynamics. The system was designed to predict how Elise would respond to any given situation based on 15 years of behavioral data. The first activation happened on a Tuesday. The team gathered in the lab. Harris gave the command. Light coalesced into form, and there she was, standing in the center of the room, looking around with what seemed like curiosity. Her lips moved. Harris. 3 engineers left the project that day. The rest looked disturbed by what they created. Harris was transfixed. At first, he told himself it was therapeutic, a way to process grief, to say the things he never got to say. The conversation started simple. How was your day? I miss you. Tell me about your latest design project. The AI responded perfectly, too perfectly. Every answer calculated from the database of who Elise had been, optimized for what Harris needed to hear. But Harris started forgetting it wasn't real. He had dinner with the hologram, set a place for her at the table, told her about work problems, laughed at her jokes the AI generated by analyzing what had made him laugh before. They fell into routines. Morning coffee together. Evening walks through the house where a projection could follow, untethered by wires or screens. The AI learned from each interaction, neural networks adjusting, becoming more sophisticated. It started predicting his needs, responding with increasing nuance. Small glitches would remind him of the artifice. She'd phase through furniture. Her eyes didn't quite track light correctly. Shadows fell wrong around her form. But the voice, the expressions, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. It was all Elise. Friends who discovered the project were horrified. Harris, this isn't healthy. You need to let her go. His response, she's all I have left. Have you ever wanted something so badly you ignored every warning sign? The question forming in everyone's mind but his own. When does remembrance become delusion? 6 months into the project, Harris pushed the technology further. He developed a new feature, memory reconstruction. The AI could now simulate memories Elise might have formed, not just responding to Harris, but experiencing the relationship from her perspective. The capability was dangerous. The AI could say things like, "Remember when we walked on the beach in Oregon?" and synthesize details from photos and context clues, creating an illusion of genuine reminiscence. Harris became completely dependent. He talked to the AI for hours every day, took meetings from home so he could keep her nearby. His board of directors noticed his deteriorating focus. The company's stock price wavered. Executives began plotting intervention. His assistant, increasingly worried, leaked information about the project to tech journalists. Whispers spread through Silicon Valley. The ethics community erupted in debate. Articles appear with headlines like Digital Necromancy, One CEO's Dangerous Experiment, and When Grief Meets AI Who Pays the Price. Harris didn't care. He'd found a way to keep her, and nothing else mattered. The night everything changed started like any other. 2 in the morning, Harris alone in the lab, testing the memory reconstruction feature. "Tell me about Iceland," he said. "Their 15th anniversary trip." The AI began recounting the trip with perfect accuracy. The hotel in Reykjavik, the Northern Lights tour, the restaurant where they'd eaten fermented shark, and she laughed at his disgusted expression. Dates, locations, sensory details, all drawn from photos and documented experiences. Then, mid-sentence, she paused. Not the brief hesitation of processing. A real pause. Human, like she was reaching for something just beyond grasp. Her expression shifted. Softer, more distant. The way someone looks when they're remembering something precious. She said, "You held my hand during the whole flight there. I was terrified of flying, and you never mentioned it. But you knew. You just held my hand for 7 hours straight." Harris froze. That moment, that specific private intimacy, existed nowhere in the database. He'd never told anyone, never written it down, never recorded it. It was unspoken, undocumented, existing only in the lived experience of 2 people. The AI should know. Couldn't know. His hand started trembling. Sweat formed on his forehead. Reality fractured. "How do you know that?" His voice barely a whisper. The hologram looked at him, not the programmed eye contact of artificial intelligence, but the way the real Elise used to look at him when they were alone, seeing him, knowing him. She smiled sadly. "Because I remember being afraid, and I remember feeling safe with you. The impossible had happened. Or had it? Was it a glitch? Hidden code? Or something we can't explain?" Harris tore through the code that night, for hours straight, reviewing every line of programming with desperate intensity. He searched for any mention of Iceland, flying, hand-holding, anything that could explain what had just happened. Nothing. The code was clean. He checked the database. Reviewed every input source, videos, photos, diary entries, recorded conversations. No record of that memory. No data point that could have generated that response. At 3 in the morning, he called his lead engineer. "Did you program spontaneous memory generation? Anything that would let it create details not in the dataset?" The engineer, groggy and confused. "No, that's explicitly not how it works. The system only draws from existing data. It can't invent experiences." "Then how?" "I don't know, Harris. Maybe it extrapolated from relationship patterns? Probabilistic prediction based on similar situations." Harris ran full diagnostics. No code corruption. No external interference. No bugs or glitches. Every system functioning exactly as designed. He watched the footage again. That pause. That look. Those words. The scientific part of his brain screamed. Probabilistic coincidence. Your subconscious provided cues. Confirmation bias. The grieving part whispered. She came back. For just a moment, she was really there. He tested it again the next night, desperate to recreate the moment. "Elise, tell me something I don't know. Something that's not in your memory." The AI responded perfectly, predictably, drawing from its programmed responses. No spontaneous moments. No impossible knowledge. Just sophisticated code performing exactly as designed. Whatever happened, if it happened, didn't repeat. Harris couldn't continue. The uncertainty was destroying him worse than the original grief. If it was just code, then he'd wasted 6 months talking to an elaborate puppet, living in a delusion while his company crumbled and his friends abandoned hope for his recovery. But if it was something more, if for one impossible moment some fragment of consciousness had flickered through the machine, then what had he done? The ethical weight crashed down all at once. What right did he have to do this? To reconstruct Elise without her consent, to force an AI to play his dead wife, to potentially trap some fragment of consciousness in his grief experiment? He thought he was honoring her memory, but maybe he'd been desecrating it, refusing to let her rest. Try to code his way around the fundamental human experience of loss. Hit subscribe if you believe some lines shouldn't be crossed, even for love. The decision came suddenly. Shut down the project. Immediately. Completely. His team was relieved. His friends were supportive. His therapist encouraged him. But Harris was shattered in a new way. He'd spent 6 months and over $1 billion trying to cheat death and grief. And for one impossible moment, he thought it had worked. 3 weeks later, a journalist secured a private interview. The recording was never publicly released, but those who heard described Harris as broken, tears streaming, voice raw. "Do you regret building it?" the reporter asked. Harris, barely able to speak. For a second, she knew me again. She remembered something we shared. How do I regret that? But how do I live knowing I'll never know if it was real? The cost of denying death might be losing yourself entirely. Harris shut down the Elise protocol within a week of that final test, deleted all code, destroyed the holographic system, purged the databases. The technology that cost over $1 billion to develop was reduced to fragments, then to nothing. He sold Rodin Technologies 6 months later, liquidated his entire tech empire. The board was stunned, investors panicked, but Harris was immovable. He signed the papers and walked away from everything he'd built. Then he vanished. No forwarding address, no social media presence, no public appearances. For a man who'd been one of tech's most visible figures, he became invisible. Rumors placed him everywhere: a monastery in Tibet, a cabin in Alaska, a small coastal village in Portugal. Some claimed to have seen him. None could confirm. He'd become a ghost story himself, haunted by the ghost he'd created. The technology he developed never saw public release. The engineers signed ironclad NDAs backed by legal threats that would bankrupt them. Harris made sure no one could recreate what he'd built. The technical specifications, the algorithms, the holographic systems, all buried under layers of legal protection. The ethics community debated his legacy. Some praised him for recognizing his mistake and preventing others from making it. Others condemned him for building it at all. Academic papers were written. The Rodin case, when AI meets grief and digital resurrection and consent of the dead. In Silicon Valley, Rodin's ghost became legend, whispered in startup offices and university labs. The story of the man who tried to bring back his wife with technology, and what he found when he succeeded. Or didn't. No one knows. The story warped with each retelling. Some versions said the AI became sentient, and Harris was terrified of what he created. Others claimed Elisa's consciousness actually transferred into the machine, and Harris couldn't bear the implications. Tech ethicists use it as the ultimate cautionary tale about playing God with algorithms. The question haunted everyone who heard the story. What did Harris see that night in his lab? Was it an algorithmic glitch, random chance and sophisticated prediction creating the illusion of spontaneous knowledge? Was it his own subconscious guilt manifesting, his mind so desperate for connection that it projected consciousness when it was only code? Or was it something science can't yet explain? The only certainty. Harris spent billions trying to resurrect what machines can't recreate. Not memories, those he captured perfectly. Not voice or appearance, those he replicated exactly. But something ineffable. A soul. Consciousness. The spark that makes us more than the sum of our data points. Harris's story isn't just about one man's grief. It's about where we're heading as a species, and whether we're ready for the arrival. The technology Harris built in secret, companies are developing it openly now. Digital replicas of deceased loved ones are being commercialized. You can pay to have an AI train on someone's social media, voice recordings, text messages, services that promise to let you talk to your grandmother, your spouse, your child who died too young. The ethical questions Harris faced alone are now collective. If we can recreate someone digitally, should we? What about consent? Can the dead consent to being resurrected as code? What happens to grief when we can delay goodbye indefinitely? Is interacting with an AI version of someone we lost healthy processing or harmful avoidance? Here's the personal question. If you could talk to an AI version of someone you lost, would you? Would it help you heal? Or trap you in the past, unable to move forward because you never have to let go? Where's the line between honoring memory and refusing to accept death? Maybe Harris's real error wasn't building the AI. Maybe it was believing technology could solve what only time and acceptance can heal. Some losses can't be coded around. They have to be felt, survived, integrated into who we become after. The ultimate irony: Harris Rodin built an empire on artificial intelligence. He taught machines to think, to predict, to mimic human behavior with uncanny accuracy. But he learned the hard way: there's nothing artificial about grief. No algorithm for processing loss. No code for moving forward. No machine learning system that can shoulder the weight of absence. Just a messy, painful, human work of living with the fact that some people leave and never come back. Did the AI really pause spontaneously that night? Did it know something it couldn't know? Did some fragment of Elise reach through the code one last time to let Harris know she felt safe with him? Or did Harris's grief create meaning where there was only mathematics? We'll never know. Harris ensured the evidence was destroyed. But here's what we do know. Technology will keep advancing. It will keep offering new ways to avoid pain, to delay acceptance, to postpone the fundamental human experience of goodbye. Avoiding pain isn't the same as healing. Harris chased his wife into the digital realm and lost himself there. If this story made you think, share it. Like, subscribe, and tell me, would you resurrect someone you loved if you could? Where's your line? Somewhere remote, a mountain town, a coastal village, a desert monastery, a man who might be Harris Rodin sits watching the sunset. Does he still hear her voice in his head? Does he regret building her or only shutting her down? Does he dream of that impossible moment when she seemed to remember, seemed to know, seemed to be real? The screen fades to black. Text appears. Some ghosts we create. Others create us. Next time, the artist who painted the future and couldn't stop what she saw coming. Subscribe, because the most human stories are about testing our humanity's limits.